Well, we turn our attention to security now, as you see. And just less than a week, we've seen at least three bombings in two northeastern states of Taraba and Yobe. The one you saw earlier was in Taraba just Friday night. That was when that explosion happened. 3 days earlier, there was an explosion as well in Taraba State. Perhaps related. And in Yobe, which is quite a distance, just right at the top of the map, we've seen two attacks as well. One bomb attack and another attack, which was credited to terrorists. So why are we seeing these attacks on the northeastern states of Yobe and Taraba? Is there a link? Because when you look at it, most of those attacks happened at joints where they were drinking. So is there a link? Let's take a look at this together with Brigadier General Jonathan Temlong, who's a retired Army officer, fellow War College, Abuja, fellow Institute of Management Consultants. He joins us via Zoom this morning from Rayfield in Jos. And joining us from our Abuja studio is Mr. Mike Ejiofor, retired director, SSS, a security consultant. Thank you for joining us on the program. I'll begin with Brigadier General Temlong this morning. And, seeing perhaps those attacks in Taraba and in Yobe, what do you make of it? Do you see any link?
Well, thank you very much. Good morning. You find out now that the heat from the military operations on the terrorists has been so much now that they are not able to take on the armed personnel again. So they have resorted to taking on soft targets. And you see some of those soft targets are outside the real conflict areas, like Taraba had been a relatively peaceful area outside the confines of where the Boko Haram and ISOP have been operating. So what they are doing now is to hit soft targets. And so it behoves on Nigerians, especially to know that the effect of the military operations have been so drastic on the terrorists. And what they have now resorted to is to hit soft targets. So we must, as a people, get ourselves prepared to defend ourselves. And in that defending, I mean taking proactive measures, sort of first aid measures to be able to detect some of these people before they hit us, because it is not always possible. It's impossible for the security services to be everywhere. You can see the pattern, like if they went to a joint where they sat down, people were drinking, and they dropped something and went out. If you see something, the police say something. But in this case, this is a strange person who came into that environment, bought a drink, dropped, and went out. He should have raised some curiosity as to who that person is, especially for those who are there, because usually it's regular people. They drink in regular places. So they should have known those who come there to drink, and any foreigner who comes in, they should have actually asked the question, one or two, who are you, where are you coming from? At least it would have agitated him. Because usually when they come in, there are certain telltale signs that somebody carrying bombs or wants to commit such an heinous crime exhibits. You see him unsettling, you see him sweating, you see his eyes moving from point A to B, and so many other things that are not normal with somebody who is going in normally to drink. The same thing in the marketplaces. When you see them coming, when you see somebody sweating profusely, not that it's hot, but it's cold, and wearing some dresses that are expanded and heat and the rest, you know that such a person is likely carrying a bomb. So we must be able to look at this thing. And that brings to mind what we have been saying, that the Nigerian state must build the capacity of the citizens to deal with these security situations in terms of security awareness, in terms of national resilience and cohesion, in terms of having the national will to survive. So we must build that, because the citizens are just on their own, and nobody actually knows what to do in terms of emergency. Initially, there were jingles coming out from the police telling you don't run to where a bomb is, but when the things started settling down, it went off. We must continue. You see, I give you an example. During the Nigerian Civil War, when the Biafran B-26 was active, Every community, I know of my community in Peel, in Lantan local government. The war started in 67 when I was in secondary school. By the time I came back for holidays, every household had a trench around the house. Every household. And they were told that in case you see an aircraft flying low and the rest, people will run into the trenches. That was how the people were taught how to defend themselves, civil defense. It's not something that is impossible, it's not rocket science. Today we have all sort of the cyberspace is a go with the social media. We can train our citizens using even the social media, but it goes beyond that. The civil defense, the DSS.
Let me get Mr. Ejiofor's opening comments, Brigadier General, just to get his opening comments. Before we come deeper into this, arming the citizens to actually be a part of this fight. Mr. Ejiofor, so we're seeing attacks now in particularly Yobe and Taraba on soft targets, and for Brigadier General is as a result of the onslaught by the military. So these elements are looking for softer targets who are not armed, who are perhaps unaware. But, listen to the account of the people seeing the threat, or at least maybe perhaps something related across these attacks. What does it tell you? What do you see?
Well, thank you for having me, and I want to appreciate what General Tenlong has said, because we need to awaken our consciousness. Like he said, the heat was turned on the terrorists in the northeast, especially Borno State, before they now moved to the northwest and north central, with massive kidnapping and all the rest of them. Now, what is happening? If you recall that in the 2014-2015, we had issues, 2012-14, we had issues of massive bombing, suicide bombing. And the people took their security in their hands. What have we done? Why have we left those measures put on ground? We let down our guards because we felt everything was okay. And the terrorists operate on deception and diversion. Now they are going for soft targets, going back to pre-2014-2015 era. So what we need to do now is to emplace all these security measures. You see, people took their security in their hands. You go to churches, you go to mosques, you go to marketplaces, you see people being searched and questioned. But we have dropped that because there was a law and we thought we have won that issue of the soft targets. Since they believe in diversion and deception, they now want to draw attention from the military, who has been on them in the northeast and the northwest and north central, to attacking soft targets. And they deliberately took on areas that are peaceful. That is relatively peaceful now in terms of Taraba and Yobe. We've not had series of attacks. You recall in 2019, we had 11 suicide attacks. And with all this, there has been a reduction in terms of the suicide bombings, but they are now trying to bring it up. And the reasons are obvious. First of all, you recall that this is the fasting period. And erroneously, these terrorists, among them from intelligence, believe that when they attack the infidels, in quote now, and kill them, they go straight to heaven. No matter how erroneous you see, but that's their belief. And you recall, like I said, in 2019, we had about 11 suicide bombings. Election is coming up. They want to divert attention. They want to make sure that people don't believe or have confidence in government. And that's why they continue to do this. So I think the government, the security forces, on their part alone, cannot provide security. So we need to take our security in our hand by placing those measures. And I ask one question. So they go to rural areas now. If we come to Abuja, we used to have CCTV, solar power, the CCTV. Are they working? Because you never can rule out the possibility of them coming back to metropolis like Maiduguri, Abuja, and the rest of them. So we have a big challenge in our hand that we must try to confront by getting together, being security conscious, and letting the people, like the incident you talked about that happened in Taraba. People saw the terrorists dropping this bag, and nobody asked questions. If we were in a conscious area, say, please come and collect your bag. And in the process, maybe he would have died alone. And fortunately, people did not die, but we don't have to wait for people to die before we take action.
Well, let me take this back to General. Well, he has said, Mr. Ejiofor says, this is pre-2015 MO. Like, this is what the terrorists were doing pre-2015, looking for soft targets and all of that. We should know better now in 2022, after at least 7 years of fighting this war. So, seeing that they are back to that MO now, looks like perhaps they have a grand plan in the offing. What should we be doing different to ensure that we don't go back to the previous years of terrorism in Nigeria?
Well, thank you very much. Sir Mike Ejiofor has really said it, because you see, Nigerians will always have what sometimes are called selective amnesia. People just forget very quickly what has happened and think it's business as usual. Like Mike Ejiofor said, we had some of these measures in place. No sooner had we been able to curb them from carrying out these dastardly attacks in our cities and rural areas that we mosque and the rest.
Lost your audio for a moment. We lost your audio for a moment, so please, can you just take it back a bit so we don't miss the point you were making there?
I say, hello, I say, if you look at when we went after we have taken control of all the cities and the rest and driven them back, Nigerians dropped their guards.
General, okay, I think something is wrong there with the audio again, so please, if you could just toggle it or check for us. We don't want to miss that point you're making, quite vital point you're trying to make there. So let me just double check. Are you back now?
Hello, are you hearing me now?
Okay, it's really low, so we'll probably just give you a moment to work on that, so we don't.
Now?
It's still quite low, General. So just give us a moment. Let's try to maybe work on that and see if we can boost the level, and we'll be back. But let's take this to Mr. Ejiofor for a while. But General, please hold on to that thought. We'll come back to you on that one. So, Mr. Ejiofor, your thoughts, really. So, pre-2015 MO, we're seeing a trend. Do you think that perhaps this period we're in is also responsible for these attacks we have seen on, areas where people are gathered drinking both in Yobe and Taraba states? But also, if we say that we need people to be a part of this fight, I wonder what kind of psyche we need to ensure people have so they can actively be involved. Because for a lot of people, they're even scared right now, so they don't want to be involved with anything intelligence, giving information and all of that. So how can we build the psyche of the people to also know that we're a vital part of this fight?
No, we're not talking about intelligence now. We're talking of protecting ourselves. The first law of nature is self-preservation. Pre-2014, 2015, when this thing was on the rise, you recall that churches, everywhere you go, there were measures put in place to check these people, preventing Okada motorcycle riders from getting into crowded areas. You remember what happened in Madala? So this is a festive period. It's not just a coincidence. These people are planning, and I'm sure too the security agencies are on top of the game by trying to ensure that they are waking the consciousness of the people. It is very critical because you cannot post policemen everywhere. They don't have the strength in the first place. So we need to, but when I say taking our security in our hands, it's not like confronting the well-armed terrorists. We are talking of these people who you can easily identify by their mood, like General Tenlong said. You see, people, they'll be shivering, they'll be panicking each time they have their explosives on. So you look at such people, are they people who are very familiar, or they're strangers in that environment? People should be able to notice that strangers are available. If you go to Republic of Benin, for instance, very close by, any time a stranger comes in, everybody knows that this is a stranger. But in our own climate, it's not my business. And at the end of the day, it becomes everybody's business. So we must be security conscious. We must look at what we do. We cannot leave everything to government. I'm not saying that government has no responsibility, because the primary purpose of government, of course, is the security and welfare of the people. But we also need to assist government to ensure that these measures will alert the security agencies. And again, what efforts are we making emergency responders? How fast will it take? What do we have in place to take these people? How long does it take to arrive at a scene? At the scene of what happens, like General Tenlong said, and generally, you see people rushing to that, taking photographs. Once an explosion takes place, there's likely to be a follow-up extension. So you evacuate the area. All these are things we should be doing to ensure that at least we keep ourselves safe.
Mr. Ejiofor, this is really also about intelligence, because, I mean, the average person cannot combat a criminal or a terrorist. So they also need to give that information they've gotten to the security operatives. But we'll come back to that in a moment. We have General back, and I mean, the audio is good now. So, General, I asked that you hold your thoughts at that point, so please, you can go on. I understand the audio is back. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think what we should be doing is like what Mike Ejiofor said. We should be building our national resilience, national cohesion, and the national will to survive. The citizens must survive first. Like I always give the analogy of a first aid. You must be able to stop bleeding first before the medics arrive. If you are not able to stop bleeding before the medics arrive, you are dead. They will only come and carry the dead body. So also in this vein, the citizens must take responsibility for their security, because these people live with them. This person might have traveled all the way from Maiduguri to Taraba, or from Sambisa or wherever to Taraba, and he would have traveled inside a commercial vehicle. They would have gone through checkpoints. People would have seen that he was exhibiting some funny moves along the route. He might have been asking some silly questions, probably has not been known. And these are things that the citizens must be able to start detecting, either in the vehicles or in their own communities. And when they come in here, they are able to do that. But I think the important thing is that the governments must think of building the capacity of our citizens to be able to do what they are supposed to do. It is a government problem, because being a chief security officer is not fighting. What are the proactive measures, preventive measures that you take to be able to prevent or protect your people? You must use the soft power components as a chief security officer, local government level, state level, and even at the national level. And we have so much resources out there that can be used. People like us can be used in helping in building the resilience and building the capacity of the communities. Mike Ejiofor and co, there are so many of them that have retired as directors and junior levels in DSS and the rest. It's national service. You don't have to start paying us any money, but probably provide the logistics for training these people.
Okay.
Because
well, General,
people have to survive. Our citizens must survive.
Most certainly.
So we must use all the resources available to us. It is Nigeria's intellectual resources. We were trained by the Nigerian government to protect our citizens. And in retirement, we can be used by the same Nigerian government to help our people survive. So I think there are so many ex-servicemen available. There are so many security operatives available that can be harnessed and used by the Nigerian state to build the resilience and build the capacity of our citizens in security awareness, we must harness these resources. We are always quick to come and say, oh, go and bring people from outside. No, let's analyze these problems and use our local resources to solve them. We have them in abundance. Thank you.
Well, perhaps another way to begin that, General, would be to even build the confidence of the people in government, because there are those who believe that that has been depleted over time. That and a number of other issues we'll take on when we return from this break. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Well, General, you and as well as Mr. Jofo have been talking about, you know, citizen engagement and all of that concerning the security thing. But there have also been reports, and we have raised this issue countless times, that there are times when people have, you know, given information to security agents when they have such information about, you know, people who are perpetrating criminality in their environment, and they have paid dearly for it. So instilling confidence in the security agencies again, the same security agencies, to help them protect themselves. I don't know how we build that confidence is a conundrum for me.
Well, thank you very much. You see, it is a two-way thing. If you post, let's say, a DPO to a local government, there is the chairman of that local government, and there is the chairman of the state traditional council in that local government, and elders. The first and foremost is that they observe that man, they should talk to him. He is here to prevent and talk. It is very simple. When you see a police operative or a security operative, or even a military man for that matter, hobnobbing with some of these bad people, they know them, they're in their communities, they know all the bad people, then you know that there is something definitely wrong. So the normal channel is that an official report is made about that officer, that this is the way we observe him. I've said it here, and I think I said it last Monday, to know that no government official, especially those in uniform, will ever want to be reported by the community he is serving inside. And if you do that and carry to this thing, that is the end of his career. And he will not want to end his career because of some hoodlums and his name. So I think the communities must take responsibility and make sure that they even make the security operatives accountable to them, because there must be a concept of accountability. And even the government itself, because you see, because the government is not even accountable to us. That's why you find out that a lot of things are happening, because the normal thing is that they come, or if they like, they tour the area and the rest. But there must be a concept of accountability. How do we prevent these things from coming again? And that's where accountability comes. So you get people to sit down and analyze and look at what is the problem and see how you can stop it or how you can prevent it and bring it to a bare minimum. Okay. But when you sit down every time we're sending condolence messages, or is a usual message that we send, we'll bring to book. I've asked, that book should have been how many volumes now that will bring the perpetrators to book, bring them to book. We are not brought anybody to book. So the whole thing is that the communities, including the traditional rulers, there must be a concept of accountability. Even the traditional rulers, because we have heard of some of them conniving, they too must be accountable to their citizens. They were selected by selectors. They are supposed to be rulers of a people, custodian of their culture. And if they go against the people that they are supposed to protect and their culture, those people must hold them accountable. So okay. The question of accountability comes in here. So we must hold our elected officials accountable. We okay. must hold our public officials accountable. We must hold our traditional rulers accountable.
Well, Mr. Jofo, I suspect that you would agree with General Temlong, because, I mean, you have also talked about the fact that the people need to see, who sees something should say something. And time was, in the course of my, working, when we've seen even local government level, at local government levels, they had then some sort of security apparatus with the traditional rulers, with the religious leaders among them. I don't know if you agree with what General is talking about now, to hold, the people, the community leaders, in whichever guise they are, we should also hold them accountable. The question then is how, because there are those who would say they don't even have any security apparatus to work with. So is this by any chance suggesting state level security or community level security apparatus at the national or state level, or what do you think?
Well, I completely agree with General Tenlong. First of all, at the local government level, at the state level, for instance, you have State Security Council meeting. The Security Council, comprising the Attorney General, the Governor, the traditional religious leaders, and the rest of them. Almost all the agencies are represented. At the local government level, you also have Security Committee headed by the chairman of the local government. The traditional ruler in charge of the traditional rulers in that local government is a member of that committee. But how effective, we shouldn't be deceiving ourselves, how effective are our traditional rulers? Before this time, traditional rulers were very effective. They know the people in their community. But now, what do we see? Government giving staff of office to the traditional ruler, who is not even qualified to be ab initio, the traditional ruler. First of all, you have conflict or dispute, chieftaincy dispute, that this man is not supposed to be our traditional ruler, this is not supposed to be our traditional ruler. So the confidence, first of all, is not there among the members of the public to rely on this. And because of politicization of all these traditional institutions, you see the traditional institution, the traditional rulers trying to survive by conferring chieftaincy titles on well-known criminals in that area. So what do you expect the police to do? So it is a responsibility of all. We must all go back to the basics. Before the advent of modern governance, we have the way of governing our people and ruling our people, that you don't even witness such crimes. But now, the traditional institution has been bastardized, has been eroded, there's no confidence in the people. So we need to legislate and empower the traditional rulers to carry out their functions effectively. Otherwise, security, we say, is local. So you must start from the local level before going to the state and the national. And that's why I've always advocated on this issue of state police. No matter the defects or the disadvantages, the advantages we have to gain from state police are more, because the people who police the community are from that community. They know the criminals. I'll give you an example, a do example in the recruitment of their vigilante. That's why it's not that Edo is crime-free, but for you to be recruited into the vigilante, your traditional ruler will recommend you. We were on a seminar where we were being educated on this. Your traditional ruler will recommend you to the DPO, to the chairman. Before this, people must even discover that you are not fit to be in that community. So for fear of, we must have a balance. If you say you are not going to report to the police or the security agencies for fear of, you are eventually going to be their target. Go to Ondo State, for instance. You can see that the effect of Yamotekun in some of these southwestern states, that they are effective. We must not continue to do the same thing and expect different results. We must localize our security to ensure that it's effective.
Is this information unknown to the authorities, Mr. Jofo?
Well, if it's known to the authorities, let me tell you, I talk about politicization. You can provide intelligence, for instance, and the people decide for political reasons not to work on it. So who is to blame? So that's why I say we must go back to the basic. We must know the people in our community. We must be conscious of our environment. Security is everybody's business. We just can't fold our hands and expect government to do everything for us. It's not possible.
Okay, let me take this to general. So many things to talk about, but there's something we perhaps take for granted sometimes, and that's the mentality of the average Nigerian. I mean, you have to give it to Nigerians. They wake up day in, day out. They see stories of insecurity. If it's not a kidnapping, it's killings, bombings, attacks, and all of that. And this is something Nigerians have to deal with on a daily basis. I mean, for you, it might be easier to internalize these things, but for Nigerians, I mean, what they look forward to is good stuff about Nigeria, not all these insecurity incidents on the front page of the dailies and all that. For you, what would you advise the mentality of the average Nigerian should be towards these incidents? I know it's something overlooked a lot, but perhaps we can speak to that this morning.
Well, thank you very much. I think the average mentality of the Nigerians should actually change. You see, there is this carefree attitude that is being exhibited in some areas. And there is this segmentation of the country that is being done. And that's why I talked about national cohesion. I talked about national resilience. You see, when that incident happened in Taraba now, people in Lagos, people in Port Harcourt, and people in Sokoto might say, oh, it's far away. It's Taraba people there. Sometimes because they talk, somebody was saying, oh, the governor of Kaduna, he talks too much, so it's good for him that they're killing his people. I mean, these are Nigerians. So that mentality must stop, that whatever happens to one, it affects all. And so that mentality should start shifting from the segmentation that we're doing to a national response, a national cohesion and a national will and resilience that we will look at as a nation. And so that mentality must stop, and then that means then that whatever is happening in Taraba, there must be empathy and there must be proactive steps taken to prevent that it can happen here. And we say it's a known thing that terrorism, as it were, has no boundaries, it has no borders, let alone boundaries, interstate boundaries. It's an international crime. So it can happen anywhere. So I think our mentality must shift from, oh, it's happening to them, it's good for them, oh, it's a Christian area that they've hit, oh, it's a Muslim area that they've hit, and the rest. It has to be Nigerians first. That mentality must be a Nigerian. We will start seeing ourselves as Nigerians first before we start seeing ourselves as tribesmen or religious people. It's very unfortunate, but we must build this thing in our psyche in Nigeria. People look at, when you appoint anybody, they look at it, is he competent? Is he a Nigerian? No. Oh, he's a Muslim, he's Fulani, he's Yoruba, he's Igbo. How long will we continue like this? They see leaders in terms of their religion and tribes. They see appointees in terms of their religion and tribes, or where they come from. And when they get it too, they see it as our own. And so they think it's a way of milking and appropriating the amount of money they can get from the national purse. This mentality must stop. If we want to build a nation that will survive, we want to build a nation that is just and equitable, we must see Nigerians as Nigerians. We must see everybody in this country as a brother or a sister, and what affects one affects all. So that mentality must change, but it has to begin by a conscious effort, even by the leadership themselves. The leadership might exhibit that they are leaders of all, not leaders of a tribe, not leaders of a religion or faith or creed or anything. They must be national leaders. It must be national in outlook. Even at the micro level, at the state level, and local government levels, it has to be so. I think this is the beginning of, if we start building a nation where no man is oppressed, where tribes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood we stand. I think that
important
mentality is
point.
what we need now to carry Nigeria forward.
I think that's an important point to make, General, especially now that the talk is about politics, and some people might try to exploit, those peculiarities. Is it religion, ethnicity, political leanings, and all of that? But thank you so much. I would like to thank you for your thoughts on the program. They've been clearly incisive. Brigadier General Jonathan Temlong, retired Army officer, fellow War College, Abuja, also fellow Institute of Management Consultants, joining us via Zoom from Jos this morning, as well as Mr. Mike Ejiofor, retired director, the SSS security consultant, joined us from our Abuja studio. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure having you on Sunrise Daily this morning. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, your own contribution to the program is next this morning on the program, and tweets.